Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick update on my experience with the Sony Xperia Z2 tablet. This is the 16GB Wi-Fi version of this tablet, priced at $499.99, recently launching here in the States. It has, however, been out globally for a little while, and in my opinion, you are looking at the best 10.1-inch tablet on the market. This is the thinnest and lightest, most powerful offering that I have ever seen. So we've got a Snapdragon 801 under the hood, one of Qualcomm's best chips right now, quad-core, I believe clocked at 2.3 gigahertz. Some variations are clocked at 2.5. But when it comes to performance, this thing just screams. You've got a great 1200p resolution, 10.1-inch display using Sony's Triluminous tech, and it really performs incredibly well. I'm going to go ahead and load up some websites, show you what web browsing is like, because it does a very nice job. In terms of where I am in relation to my router, this is using AC connectivity. We are on, right now, as I will show you by jumping into Wi-Fi from the settings, a 5 gigahertz band utilizing AC connectivity, and you can see right there we're at 117 megabits, but we're nowhere near the router. If I was in the same room, we'd be running closer to 450. So pretty solid in terms of Wi-Fi performance, and that'll come across in most of the web browsing that I'll do here. Pinch to zoom, also very smooth, but this is to be expected. This is in no way a question when you're buying such a premium high-end tablet. Let me go ahead and just open up a link and again just demonstrate some load times. You can see we are waiting for the page to finish up here. But essentially once things have loaded, we're perfectly fine. And in terms of performance, so far I've been really pleased with what I've seen out of this tablet. Let's go ahead and navigate to another website. Jump over to ESPN. We'll see if it loads up the desktop or the mobile version. Looks like we're getting desktop. By the way, battery indicator up here in the upper right, I have to say battery life has been very, very good. When I compare this to other offerings, it just smashes them. And a lot of that has to do not with the fact that Sony upped the battery size in this tablet as opposed to last year's Z, even though they did, but more so to do with the fact that we now have that Snapdragon 801, which really does a fantastic job of optimizing battery life. Also, because we don't have one of those beyond 1080p resolution displays, that's another benefit when it comes to gameplay, graphics performance, as well as battery consumption overall. So things are going to be running, I would say, very smooth on this device. A lot of people who complain about something like Samsung and the weight of their skin, their overlay, here you have nowhere near that sort of weight. You can see with a long touch, it brings up Sony's revamped interface for quick access to customizing your experience, whether you want to jump right into a widget drawer, essentially, that is going to come up on the side, or you can, of course, jump into other things, such as the actual app drawer. So just, again, basically giving you a different approach of how you get to your data and organize it and customize your experience. Quick access to wallpapers, and what's nice about this is that on the fly it does populate and actually show you what your entire home screen environment is going to look like. It's not a game-changing feature, but again, a nice revamp from Sony. And last but not least, the actual theme. I mean, if you just want to go with themes or add some more downloadable themes, you can do that. So these are all, all nice touches. If I apply that, it will apply it throughout the entire device. And now you can see it's not just the background, but it'll carry over to everything. Another thing I want to point out within software, multitasking. Of course, we have that here. On-screen buttons for multitasking, home and back, pretty much adhering to what Google would like Sony and every other manufacturer to be doing with KitKat and every other version, or I should say latest version, later versions of the Android operating system where this did become a standard. But Sony, of course, has still carried over their little multitasking, quick launch apps. In this case, they've renamed them as small apps, and these, much like Samsung's, floating applications, their toolbox, it acts in the same way. It doesn't have quite the amount of polish. Of course, you can use this just to close applications out, a simple swipe, or you can clear all of them. But down here we have several options, from things like the remote control. This will give us quick access to the remote, and it'll be a floating essential little app that you have in order to get quick access to controlling whatever piece of home theater gear you want. Another quick access is to a floating web browser, and essentially you can resize that, put that wherever you like, and it's there just running in the background. You also have other things like a timer. You also have a calculator, and last but not least, the ability to create a screen cap. So all of these things populated can be moved around, and they can also be docked. You can basically just drag them over to the right side of the screen, and now they're just little icons waiting there to be accessed. So this is a cool feature. With the web browser, you can also, if you really want to, just make it full screen. You also get all the same options that you would traditionally get in the event that this was actually the browser itself. You can see quickly there, I've now made that full screen. But let's go ahead and close that up. And last but not least, let's get that capture screen. So everything's docked now on the right side, and this all speaks to the customization that the tablet allows for. And in terms of the app drawer, this is what things look like stock. I really haven't installed anything on here. I would say the most least desirable, I was going to say startling, but it's not startling, is Sony's integration of what's new. So when you hold down the home key, you can see instead of just getting the Google Now option to jump straight into Google Now and get all of the goodness that that represents, we've also got Sony's little icon here now for what they're referring to as what's new, which is their basically attempt at, I would say, redefining an app store, a content home for you to get everything, what they recommend for your tablet in terms of audio, video, everything that you could possibly think of. Right here, it's just showing you audio right now as well as video, so we've got music and movies. But I think the goal here is eventually they want this to be a place for everything media consumption. And it makes sense because Sony is a media consumption company, and you can see they stuck a widget for that right there on the center home screen. Now, because this tablet has that great quad-core processor, complemented by 3 gigs of RAM, I really haven't seen performance issues. And when it comes to web browsing, the bit of lag that I've ever experienced, which you may have seen at the beginning of the video, really is more to do with trying to scroll before things load, as opposed to anything to do with hardware or software. I would also say that for the most part, this is going to be able to do just about anything you need. When it comes to multitasking, Samsung still has the most polished software out there. You can see the stock Sony keyboard here. Of course, you can replace that with whatever you like. But Sony, in my opinion, right now, with this product, the fact that it has its water resistance, dust-proof rating, with regard to that, the water rating now, you can take this to 1.5 meters for up to 30 minutes. Last gen it was 1 meter. It's not a tremendous difference, but that's almost double, so that's impressive. And when it comes to just having that ruggedization, it's a good thing. I don't know why anyone wouldn't want it, especially when it's in a package like this that's thinner and lighter and, quite frankly, different from everything else out there. But stock keyboard right there. I'll go ahead and navigate to Engadget. See how that loads up. Even though they're going to give us that mobile that looks desktop, can't really tell website. And again, you see right there, I tried to swipe, didn't get anything, still loading up. And a lot of people also, I hate to say it, would blame Chrome for this. But there is no excuse for this in reality. And you can see now it's perfectly smooth. And in my experience, that has been how this tablet performs for the most part. In other words, it does well. If I was closer to my router, we'd be getting instantaneous results here, not as graphic heavy, so you can see the New York Times, really no issues in terms of getting this going and using it immediately. So I really like the experience so far. I need to spend more time with it, need to look at ways that I can optimize it, customize it to my needs like anyone would when it comes to purchasing a brand new tablet and trying to utilize it to the best of your own personal needs and desires. But again, battery life, really impressive. I have to say that without even enabling the stamina or any of the power save modes, which are also interesting, something I'll dive into deeper when I give you yet another update or the full review, Sony has really changed, in my opinion, the battery capability of their tablet lineup. We're now looking at the first Sony tablet that realistically can go a full day without hesitation. If you crank brightness all the way up, it's going to burn a lot more quickly, but otherwise I feel that 40-50% is more than enough, and at that rating this thing just seems to be able to maintain its battery forever. I'm not kidding. Standby also amazing, but quick access to all of the settings, just to give you an idea of what the settings menu looks like. Really clean. I think this is what a lot of users want and desire, especially in contrast to something like TouchWiz, but it still has its own polish. This is not even close to stock. It's just very clean looking, so that's refreshing. And there are some nice things in here in terms of sound and display qualities or settings that are unique to Sony, because after all, they are a great electronics manufacturer that has an incredibly strong TV brand as well as audio brand, and as a result that comes together here in the tablet. Noise cancellation features, so some really nice things. And the front firing speakers, by the way, right here on the left and right side corners towards the bottom, are relatively powerful, and I'll eventually demo those, even though here on YouTube audio tests are really a bit absurd, considering the reproduction is not going to really give you the experience you need to have, which is a first-person one. But overall, I really like what I'm seeing here. In terms of the version, again, this is running KitKat out of the box 4.4.2, and with regard to updates, it'll be interesting to see what route Sony takes. I'm not exactly sure if this device is going to get a lot of support. Hopefully it does, because right now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this looks like the tablet to beat. I mean, expandable storage, Bluetooth 4.0, NFC, a rear 8 megapixel camera, very strong audio as I just mentioned, a form factor unlike any other. You've got that micro SD card slot and charging port tucked into that door right there, infrared blaster that will allow you to use this as a universal remote. I can tell you I've already dunked this, drenched it, absolutely no issues. In fact, it even fares better when wet than last generation. In other words, it doesn't bug out as much. It's still not really usable, but what would you expect? It does have a capacitive screen, and unless you can find water that is temperature less, the screen is going to inherently react. The only thing I'm not in love with so far is the back here. Similar to last gen, a fingerprint magnet, and you can see as much as I clean it, you can't really clean it. And this isn't from having dirty hands, it's just a matter of the materials Sony has decided to go with. NFC contact point right there. I mean, just such a clean industrial design. Your power or lock button, and right next to that is the volume rocker. And you've got your 3.5mm headphone jack right there, bottom left corner. The connection port for the magnetic dock for charging, which I think is an accessory that's going to sell very well, considering you've got to open up those top port doors in order to actually get to your ability to charge. So a really nicely made tablet, very premium. I think it definitely is, without question, as I've mentioned, one of, if not the best 10.1-inch tablet on the market right now, because it combines incredible form, function, and overall one of the best designs that I've seen that has just continued to get better without compromising what the tablet can actually do. So if you want to multitask, you've got it. If you want a multimedia consumption machine, it also will handle that beautifully. And if you want a game, you're in luck there as well, because this has one of the better GPUs on the market. So All of this really does come together to bring you a fantastic tablet right now out of the box without any customization. Well, the only awkwardness, as I mentioned before, is seeing this here, that Sony has actually in a way perverted Google Now's pretty much ironclad guaranteed experience that you get with every Android device. But I'm sure we're a firmware update away from Sony removing this if there's enough negative feedback. But I'm not really complaining about that, because I don't really see that to be a big deal. It's just something that I think people will be surprised to see when they hold down home, expecting only to see that Google logo. But otherwise, great tablet, great specifications, a price point that I think is warranted, considering, again, that this really does outclass just about all of the competition. So outside of Samsung, we finally have, in my opinion, a 10.1-inch Android tablet that really is yet another stunner. And even though the Z was a stunner last year, its specs were slightly dated at launch, where here we're getting a tablet that is right in line now with top-tier specifications, something Sony hasn't been good at doing, but has slowly gotten better at doing here. And now it's clear why they need to, because, well, quite frankly, times are a-changin' for Sony, and they can't make as many mistakes as they once could. So that is a great benefit for us as consumers. By the way, 2 notification panels, not that that's strange for KitKat. If you notice there on the left, we do have quick access to small apps there as well, because we do still have all of them populated on the right side for quick access in the event that I really need to get to that calculator. And you can just go ahead and clear them essentially that easily. So great wireless performance, just about every feature under the sun. Again, you've got that weatherproofing, dustproofing to ensure that this tablet can go anywhere. I didn't get into the camera today because really that to me is probably the least important feature on this device, or on any tablet for that matter, but it is decent, and it should be, considering this is Sony. So I'll leave that for another day. Hope you all enjoyed this demo and update for the Sony Xperia Z2 tablet. This is definitely one of the best options out there right now, and I highly recommend that if you can get a chance to look at it in person, do so, because I think that you're going to want to pick this up if you're in the market for a 10-inch tablet, especially if you'd like to shed some of the weight that the competition traditionally brings in this form factor. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.